What's going on, guys? It is the Durf, and today I'm coming at you, long overdue, Solar Prismatic Hunter build. This build is extremely powerful, and I'm going to show you how versatile it can be depending on how you want to set it up. So I'm going to go through and show you how I've got it, and then I'm going to go through and show you how you can fine-tune it to fit most of anything that you're going to come through in the game. Higher end, everyday content, or raid setup, however you want to do it. This one can be made for you and tailored to your liking. Before I get into it, if you do find anything helpful with this video, please hit that like and subscribe. I have appreciated all the support you guys have given me so far. I did say that I was going to come out with these builds sooner, but then the solstice happened, so I apologize. But without further ado, again, thank you for your support, and share this with someone if you know that they are in need of a good hunter build. Let's get on into it. So first, we're going to go right into the class. We got the Golden Gun Marksman. Now take a look at that base cooldown, 9 minutes and 16 seconds. An absolutely absurd amount of time to have to wait for your super to regenerate. That's going to be important later when I do some live gameplay. You're going to see you're not going to have to wait that long for your super, which is going to power into what makes this build so powerful. As far as abilities go, you guys can use whatever you want. I use the marksman dodge. I want to be able to reload my weapon at any point. It's pretty much all I use it for. But you can use the acrobatic dodge if you want. Depending on what kind of content you're doing, that's always a good option as well. But the regular dodge is fine for me. Triple jump, pretty straightforward. A lot of people like blink. I prefer the triple jump. I like to see where I'm going, but if you're an expert with blink, blink works great on this as well. Threaded spike, probably the most powerful melee ability out of the options here. You can always throw the withering blade, but I like to have the threaded spike because you can catch it in return and get some of that melee energy back. And then obviously the grapple. I love the grapple because I can pull myself towards enemies and unleash a massive melee attack at the end, which deals area damage and unravels targets. As far as aspects, Hunter, I believe, got a little bit shafted when it came to aspects here in the final shape. If you look at my videos for Warlock, all of them but one give you 3 fragment slots. Here, the 3 fragment slotted ones, with the exception of Gunpowder Gamble, which is what I recommend period point blank on everything. To me, unless you have a very specific playstyle, I don't really think they're that popular. Gunpowder Gamble, defeat targets with abilities, elemental debuff damage, or solar weapons to charge up an improvised solar explosive. Throw the solar explosive, and it can be shot in midair, or it comes down in a fuse, spreads an unbelievable amount of scorched ignition to surrounding combatants. Like to throw this into a crowd, sometimes to get a good damage start on a really heavy champ or even a boss if I've got one built up by the time it starts. The second one I've got approval of here is Stylish Executioner. Now, in my opinion, the loss of an extra fragment slot is 1000% worth it. Defeating a target affected by any elemental debuff grants invisibility and true sight. After performing a Stylish Execution, your next melee attack while invisible weakens targets. Now, true sight, if you're not 100% sure what that is, you can pull out your Wish Ender bow, and as you aim down it, you will be able to see through objects, just shadows of enemies. But it's incredibly useful if you're trying to sneak around. If you're doing like the Whisper exotic mission, for example, and you're running through those caves, and you really need to get to cover, but you want to see what's coming out the other side without peering around. That true sight, if you got that debuff or you got that buff and that invisibility going, really Really helpful. And honestly, it's helpful in all content, not just, the Whisper Exotic mission. That was just an example. But when you're invisible, radar range is reduced. Performing offensive actions will end invisibility. So you got to be careful. It rolls for a good 5, 6, 7 seconds. But you don't want to come out too soon unless that's your style. You need to get back and you need to get some health back. The Stylish Executioner is great for that, but also to take enemies off your back, especially in really, really sweaty environments. So these two options here, Gunpowder Gamble, Stylish Executioner, I think are no-brainers on just about every build, and I think they give you the best bang for your buck, no matter what class you're running. So even when I'm not running Solar Super, which it's going to be hard to put that down, honestly, in this season. But if I'm not running a Solar Super, it's going to be hard to put either one of these down. Certainly Stylish Execution would be the harder one to put down, but I don't really see a situation where Gunpowder Gamble is going to get outperformed by any of the other aspects. And I'll get into those with other builds because they can be applicable. But for this one specifically, Gunpowder Gamble and Stylish Executioner, absolutely no-brainers. Moving on to the stats here. So for my stats, just like on the Warlock, I chose to focus on resilience, discipline, and intellect. I've had some good feedback from people commenting and sending me questions and stuff. What's up with the intellect being at T8? Obviously, everyone understands resilience has got to be as high as possible, especially in sweaty content. You don't want to be dying by getting one-tapped. And obviously at T8, that's less likely, especially in the PvP playlist. I don't play a lot of PvP, but enough that I know that. And then obviously discipline, I want my grenades to come back as fast as possible. But unlike in Warlock, in my opinion, because you have Gunpowder Gamble, the discipline may not necessarily be as important to you, especially if you're spamming the solar explosive that you get from Gunpowder Gamble, but not necessarily your grenade after that. Okay, sometimes I do play like that unintentionally. I mean, I have the grapple in there, for a reason. But oftentimes I find myself using the grapple to get from point A to point B, or getting back into cover if I need to get out of a situation, more so than launching myself at a group of enemies. So if you are spamming the Gunpowder Gamble, you may not need discipline at 9. I do. I just prefer to have that because in the event that I do use the Gunpowder Gamble and then I want to launch myself at a melee somebody, I want to be able to get my grenade back as fast as possible so I can repeat the action. So I can throw my Gunpowder Gamble explosive and then I can launch myself literally at that same place if I need to, especially if it's a beefy champ, and lay him out. So recovery is at T3. I know it's a little bit low. I don't have the best rolls on my armor right now, but typically you want to try to keep that around a 4 or higher, but I have a fix for that. Mobility, I don't have the extra +3 on the exotic, so the mobility will be a T4 after I finish that. And then strength, right there in the sweet spot, right in the middle, 57. You're going to get your melee back plenty fast. So I don't think the ROI for melee being super high is that important on a build like this. Because my build is specifically designed to put out the most DPS in the least amount of time with the least amount of effort. For fragments, we've got Facet of Awakening, rapidly defeating targets with lighter darkness damage, or Super Final Blows, generate an elemental pickup of the matching damage type, a +10 to resilience. Now, obviously, I'm going to be focusing heavily on solar, so fire sprites are going to be popping up all over the place. It grants grenade energy. So again, going back to that T9 on the discipline, you might not necessarily need that if you have the Facet of Awakening equipped. But again, I want it back as fast as possible, so any little extra help that I can get, I'm going to take. Next, we've got Facet of Purpose. Picking up an orb of power grants either amplified, restoration, frost armor, woven mail, or overshield based on the damage type of your equipped super. -10 to recovery. So again, that's kind of a bummer for me because I was at the T4, but this brings me down to a T3. But I get that restoration because, again, I'm going to be very solar heavy in this play style. So that restoration is hopefully going to be helping me out pretty much everywhere that I go at any given time, especially in a large mob of enemies. Facet of Ruin. Increase the size and damage of the burst when you shatter a stasis crystal or frozen target, and increase the area of effect of solar ignitions. +10 mobility. So that's decent. That's why I set up here. You can theoretically go with the Withering Blade if you wanted to, because it does slow them down. It doesn't necessarily freeze them. Or if you want to drop grapple and go with the Duskfield Grenade, you can get a twofer with the Gunpowder Gamble, the Duskfield Grenade, and the Facet of Ruin. But I mainly have this, again, a solar heavy to spam the ignition, the solar ignitions that spread towards, throughout enemies. That's my favorite thing. It also stuns unstoppable champs, which is kind of a big deal to me, especially if I'm running Legend sectors, Master sectors, Nightfalls, GM, whatever I'm running that requires that little extra buff to it. If it doesn't, if I'm just running regular strikes, I mean, enjoy the extra DPS. I mean, that's plain and simple right there. Next, I have Fast of Honor. Collecting an elemental pickup or destroying a tangle grants transcendence energy of the same type. +10 to strength, which is nice. Puts me in that T5 spot. Obviously, fire sprites, again, are going to be picked up. Tangles, again, which is why I have the melee and the grapple and the melee or melee. Sorry, a knot of strand matter swirling with potential. Tangles can be shot and destroyed or picked up and thrown, dealing damage. So that's where my darkness energy is going to come from, essentially. So when I pull myself towards that group of enemies and I unleash my melee, I'm going to get that tangle, and then that's going to give me some extra bonus dark transcendence energy, because there's not going to be a lot of dark transcendent energy help from the weapons we're using. But we'll get into that in a second here. Last but not least, Facet of Sacrifice. While you have Arc, Solar, or Void buff, ability Final Blows grant bonus Darkness Transcendent energy. So this is going to be like a twofer. You're going to have the 2 strand melee and then the grenade. Well, it's not a grenade, it's a grapple. And then you've got the Gunpowder Gamble. And then obviously if you've got another light buff, like let's just say invisibility, for example, it's not going to be invisibility. It's going to be restoration. But invisibility is going to be, it is possible. But restoration is really going to carry you. You get that bonus darkness transcendent energy. Again, since you're going to be so light heavy as far as the transcendent energy go, with rolling with, again, a super that is solar. It's not dark energy or darkness. It's not a darkness class. And then pretty much everything except the melee and the grapple is light buffing to begin with. So this gives you a nice little round out at the end. You're not really going to be spamming a lot of transcendent final blows with Hunter. It's just not really set up for that. It's more set up for that with Warlocks. But it's that one little extra piece. Hey, it's just nice to have. So, as far as weapons go, now I'm going to go through what I have equipped right now. And then I'm going to go through the armor. And then I'm going to explain how to set up and get kind of a twofer build with this. Now, again, this is my everyday build. My ad clearing machine is no hesitation. This is in part because I have substance and incandescent equipped, and also it's dealer's choice. My main goal with making this class was to get my super back as fast as possible. So the dealer's choice is going to help me, period. The other reason why I've got this as my main ad clearing weapon and I don't have Still Hunt as the energy weapon and using that as my exotic is because Microcosm has a buff called the Paracausal Imbuement, which basically means once your super is expunged, you get essentially bonus DPS. It gains bonus damage once your super expires. So you fire off your Golden Gun shot, you whip this out, and you just lay waste. For backup, or if I need to pick something else off from a distance, if you haven't tried the Supremacy, I truly believe the Supremacy is not talked about enough. You can put rewind rounds, kinetic tremors, you put a backup mag on there, and this thing does hit. If you have the enhanced version of kinetic tremors, you only need 2 shots into your target to proc kinetic tremors. And if you've got a kinetic siphon on, this will give you an orb of power if it knocks out another ad that's around a major, for example. For targets that are far away or for bosses that have rotating shields that you can't get up close to, this is a perfect set-in place of Still Hunt. It doesn't do nearly as much damage as Still Hunt. Okay, that's period, point blank. But the Still Hunt damage is also solar. This is kinetic, so any kinetic damage you do, you're going to get both light and dark transcendence energy. So again, this is how I have it set up. I want my super back as fast as possible so that I can pop it and then whip this Microcosm out to lay waste. And I'm going to go through some of the damage numbers that I came through here real quick. Once I get done with the armor setup and why I'm picking Microcosm as my main DPS weapon instead of having Still Hunt with a backup. For armor, I've got Celestial Nighthawk. Obviously, Golden Gun fires 1 high damage shot. Now the key here obviously is you gotta hit the crit. So if you're firing this thing at a real swirly boss, sometimes it doesn't go according to plan, but use your best judgment. The other reason why I had this equipped, and I don't think people talk about this enough because obviously everyone knows like the single high damage shot, but the first part of this, which isn't even mentioned in the overview, is precision final blows reduce the cooldown of your super. So this is another reason why I've got the dealer's choice item, no hesitation, as my main ad clearing weapon, because for regular ads it's not hard to hit, unless you're playing like the highest end content possible, which I have a fix for that. If that's the case, it's not hard to hit, shoot these guys in their crit spots with no hesitation. True, it's not as fast as like Amit, which is a viable option as well, but any final blow that is a precision final blow gives you a little bit of reduced cooldown to your super. So in my opinion, that is just your best bang for your buck. Plus you get the Scorch, and obviously you get the Substance with no hesitation, at least the role that I created. You may have a different role. Whichever one works best for you is fine. But precision final blows will only help you get that Golden Gun shot back faster. I do have a kinetic siphon on here, obviously a heavy ammo finder. You can swap this out for a double harmonic siphon. If you really want to get your super back quicker, you can equip like ashes to assets or hands-on. Hands-on would probably be more appropriate. You get bonus super energy on melee kills. That would probably be the one that I would equip if I didn't want to put kinetic siphon on and I didn't want to have a second harmonic siphon. But a lot of times I'll run this with dual harmonic siphons because I'm only busting out Microcosm and the Supremacy, champs, majors, and bosses. And again, for majors and bosses, if I've got enough heavy ammo, I'm skipping the Supremacy unless they've got a shield, and then I'll try to stun them. But I'm going straight to Microcosm. And again, I'm going to explain why in a few. As far as the grips, you can put. I've got heavy-handed and harmonic loader. Again, I just want to be able to keep firing as many bullets as possible. You can swap both of these out and put on firepower. The issue that I have with firepower is I'm not actually throwing a grenade, so it's not quite the same thing. In my book, I'm going to be mainly whipping out that melee, um, to take out 3 or 4 enemies at a time when needed. But I'm not really relying on the grenade since I have incandescent. So the harmonic loader makes more sense. You can swap this out. You can put kinetic loader if you really want, but since I'm not really worried about that, I don't think it's necessary. As far as the chest armor, I have 1 kinetic reserves, and again, this is a twofer. I get bonus reserves to my supremacy, and I get bonus reserves to microcosm. Now, microcosm, if I remember correctly, and again, I'll have to double check once I get max ammo, you have, I believe, you can max it out at 399 rounds, depending on the amount of reserves that you have equipped. So that is a lot of heavy ammo coming from 1 weapon. And if you've got the bonus scavenger on it, it doesn't take long to fill up. Otherwise, if you don't want the reserves, if you're fine with the amount of ammo economy that you have, no matter what you're using, you can just do 1 of each: Void, Solar, and Arc. Unless you're going into something specific, you can swap it out. Check the surges and the shields, and the threat level. That way you can be prepared. As far as the leg armor goes, again, I'm a big fan of running dual absolution. It is absolutely not necessary if you don't want to. You can throw on a kinetic weapon surge if you are going to be spamming that microcosm after your super, because you're probably going to have an armor charge. Might not be a bad idea. Certainly not a bad idea if you're running a dungeon with a group of people or a raid. Someone's going to throw down some orbs of power at some point right before or during a DPS phase. That's where your surge is going to come in, and then microcosm with the paracosmal imbuement. Absolutely, it's ridiculous how fast the damage ramps up on that. And then I've got kinetic scavenger, again a twofer. You get bonus rounds or bonus reserves when you pick up an ammo brick relative to that weapon. So whether it's a special brick or a heavy brick, I'm getting bonus reserves. So I get more bang for my buck with each brick that I pick up. Last but not least, the cloak. Here's my fix for the recovery being so low. Font of restoration, any armor charge. Basically, if I pick up 2 orbs of power, I'm running at a T8 to a T10 as far as recovery. So all I have to do is just not get shot for a couple seconds, and I'm going to get my health back. Now, in the middle of a mob of enemies, if it's already burned through my resilience, chances are my recovery is not going to, I'm not going to be not taking damage long enough to survive anyways. So I probably made some bad decisions along the way. But on regular content, as long as I'm not acting stupid and just rushing into somewhere where I should be taking my time, Font restoration covers all your bases as long as you're doing what you need to do. Reaper is another one that I think is important for Hunter. Shortly after using your class ability, your next weapon fallible spawns an orb of power. So it's, again, kind of a twofer. You get your class ability, you reload your weapon, and then you get that orb of power. Gives you your armor charge, so it buffs that, and then also helps you get your super back as well as all of your abilities. So real quick, with the discipline at 9, I get my grenade, the grapple, I get that back in 47 seconds. So any orbs of power, no matter how big or small, are going to minimize that to basically next to nothing, even though it already is essentially nothing. And then my melee is at 124 right now. Couple of orbs of power bumps that under a minute without really much effort. I think it's just absolutely worth running your class like this. But again, if you're grenade heavy and melee heavy, you may not care about having your intellect as high as I do. But again, I want to get through my golden gun shot. so that I can pull this out and just absolutely decimate the competition. As far as the Hunter's Journal goes, for this particular setup, I got the entire bottom row highlighted. Anti-barrier sniper rifle, scavenger mods, incendiary rifle rounds, solar fulmination, and then sniper's meditation. Now, I understand that this is solar sniper rifle precision hits scorch target. So you can absolutely take this off and put, take your pick of whatever else you want. You can put the threaded blast on since you're going to be creating some tangles. You can put on, it's really going to depend on what you're running. And actually, you know what? I'm going to explain that kind of right now. So the build that I have right now, okay, with the weapons that I have, I got a sniper rifle in my kinetic, I got an auto rifle in my energy, and I've got microcosm in my heavy. The way that I have this build, again, I've already set up, but I'm going to say real quick, it's to get my super back as fast as possible so that I can unload Golden Gun and pull out microcosm and absolutely obliterate the competition. Your first question that you're probably going to think is, or maybe you won't think, but if you go on Reddit, you go on Google, everybody is raving about Still Hunt. I am absolutely not downplaying Still Hunt. Still Hunt is awesome. Just doing rapid damage testing, it crushes the supremacy like nothing. Even with kinetic tremors procced, it doesn't matter. Still Hunt by itself without the Golden Gun shot is 1000% better. Here's the problem though. If you don't hit a critical spot with Still Hunt, your damage drop off is essentially, the difference between life and death. And I don't necessarily mean that for you. I mean that for whatever you're shooting at. If you hit critical spots every single time that you are firing this weapon, you absolutely can maximize your damage with this weapon, unlike any other special ammo weapon that I've probably ever seen. Certainly anyone has ever seen. And I will say, one Golden Gun shot, if you hit that critical spot, can do between 800,000 and 1 million DPS. That is not a joke, because I've done it. 800,000 or a million, somewhere in between there, easily with a precision shot, Golden Gun shot from this. And it procs after 6 shots. Your average shot is going to be approximately 61,000 to 68,000, depending how close you are, obviously, but that's the average. And it's going to depend on as long as you hit crit, you're going to get 60 to 68,000 average per shot. So six rounds at 60,000 comes out to about 360, somewhere in there, 360, thousand plus let's just call it 800,000. Okay. 360 plus 300,000 plus 800,000 puts you at 1.1 million with just that weapon. That's pretty darn good. And then you add in your Golden Gun, and your Golden Gun is going to give you another 800,000. So that's going to put you at, let's just call it 1.9 million. So you're going to get 1.9 million if you are running Golden Gun and Still Hunt with this class. Here's where the damage testing took a turn that I did not necessarily see it coming. So I said, okay, I ran with that for a little while, and then I started experimenting with the Microcosm. The Microcosm holds 120 rounds in its magazine. Don't ask me why. I know what it says on the screen, 104, but it is 120. It holds 120 rounds. You can empty the magazine in 7.1 seconds. Your reload takes about 2 seconds, and then you can empty another 120 round magazine in 7.1 seconds for a grand total of 14.2 seconds for total firing time to get through 240 rounds. Now that might seem like a lot of math for you. So I'll break it down even further. Your paracausal imbuement buff after you exercise your super. So after you throw that 800,000 point DPS shot at the boss and you pull this out, you have not 5, not 10, not 15. You have 19 seconds of buff for this trait. So if you're doing the math, you can get through 240 rounds in approximately 16 seconds and still have a couple seconds left over to reload and put this thing back and go back to clearing ads and getting your super back. In comparison for the damage, you average, hold on, let me get my paper here. And again, that's not counting the bonus DPS that you're going to get on shields. Because that's this weapon specialty, is extra damage, bonus damage to shields. So my average, when I did my damage testing, my average damage per round, again, not per 2 rounds, not per magazine, not per anything, 1 round, and again, I'm shooting 1,000 rounds a minute, and I've got 120 rounds in the magazine, is 6,400, which seems absolutely terrible. Well, the problem with that logic is I have 120 rounds in the magazine. So 6,500, let's just round it up because that's what it actually was. 65 on the high end, I was getting 6,800 damage. That's not even counting the damage that I got from the shields. So just on raw damage to a crit spot. So let's just say shooting at orcs, for example. That's a great option. Even with the increasing damage on the still hunt, I'm getting 600. Now, it's a little bit more than that. But essentially, if I boil it down to 6,000 damage per shot, I'm getting 600,000 damage with an entire magazine that only takes me 7 seconds to unload. The problem with still hunt, again, is the rate of fire. The rate of fire and the fact that you have to hit the crit, which means you have to be scoped in, which means you can't see anything else around you. At 6,500 damage per shot times 120 rounds, that's 780,000 that I'm going to put down in literally 7.1 seconds. And then I'm going to reload, and then I'm going to do it again. And that's going to bring my total just for this weapon to 1.5 million. That is not counting the Golden Gun shot, which is going to be at least 800,000. So in a matter of 14 seconds, let's just call it 19. In a matter of 19 seconds, I'm going to put out 2.4 million without taking into consideration any extra damage that I'm doing to the shields. So if I round it up, if I'm being generous, and I round it up to 2.4, 2.5 million, I can do that every damage phase. And I can do that faster than I can shoot all 6 rounds of still hunt, activate the cage shot, unload that, and get the Golden Gun shot off for my normal super and reload. Twice, by the way, I should add. At most, you can probably get off maybe 10 rounds, 10 to 11 rounds in that same amount of time. I can dump 2 of these Microcosm magazines with the paracausal imbuement buff active. To me, that's a no-brainer. So that's why I have this class built like that. And I understand that this was extremely long-winded, and I hope that I didn't lose a bunch of you because I was just going on and on and on about numbers. But 2.5 million in 14 seconds versus 1.9 just by damage period is more. But the fact that you can see what's going on around you, you do not have to be scoped in, and you do not have to be hitting a crit spot to get your extra supercharged shot back is, I believe, makes it a more universal weapon to love in this situation than still hunt. But again, this is what I have it built for. So I'm not planning on sticking around long enough for those overloads and those unstops to come at me and attack me and kill me. I'm trying to pop my super, bust out this microcosm, and then just watch them melt. I got 120 rounds to get through before I have to worry about them finishing me off. And believe me, I've done it enough times. That champ does not ever reach me. The only problem I have is with barriers. And again, that's why I have this equipped, the Supremacy. 2 or 3 rounds in that, the barriers popped. I go back to this, which still has the buff going, and I finish them off. So again, if you play it right, this class this way that I have it built right now can absolutely decimate whatever is in front of you. But just like higher end content, it's not like you can just go running in and think that you're just going to be able to kill the whole bunker in that Master Law sector in 10 seconds. It's not going to work like that. You're going to have to pick your time to use all of your buffs into your favor. And while you're doing that, you can get some orbs of power in the meantime with something like No Hesitation. Now, if you don't have Microcosm and you want to put on Still Hunt, an excellent alternative would be either your Apex Predator. I got Reconstruction and Bipod on. Or I've got this pretty nasty Pro Memoria machine gun that's got Reconstruction and Target Lock on. Now with this build, I get 164 rounds in the magazine. So if I'm running that Legends sector, for example, and you're facing Overload and Barrier, I'm going to go in there with my Overload being my made ad clear. Midnight Coup is absolutely a great option for this. You can also put on a bold endings. I prefer the rapid hit with the Dragonfly. Again, these weapons are absolutely available to you. That's kind of why I'm showcasing them, to let you know if you don't have Microcosm, don't feel like this build is not going to work for you. It absolutely will. It's just Microcosm is just a little bit better. So I'll roll in with Midnight Coup, or I'll roll in with bold endings. Now, if it's an unstoppable, I got the sidearm, which is the call, although I don't really want to be running double special. I try not to do that if I can help it. You can also roll with Patron of Lost Causes from the Echoes playlist, because you can equip a scout rifle. I'll show you right here. Unstoppable scout rifle. Again, if you need to. If you don't want to run double special, which I typically don't recommend, especially when you know ammo economy is going to be bleak. You can run with a hand cannon. If you're going to be seeing Overload, you can run either a sidearm. You can also run the Better Devils. Oh wait, is that's no, I wouldn't recommend that. I think the scout rifle will be better. You get more rounds off. It's just going to be better, and they're more powerful too. But yeah, you can run something like this. The Midnight Coup. You can run Still Hunt. You can run Apex, and if you don't have Apex, you can throw on that Pro Memoria. Put on, level it up. Get Reconstruction and Target Lock on there, and you can get, like I said, 164 rounds in the magazine, which, I mean, even at the highest level endgame content, if you're really trying to kill that champ and you haven't whittled his health down enough with this alone, either Apex or Pro Memoria will do the trick. And again, the excellent thing about running with like Midnight Coup or bold endings is that little buff that you get. Precision Final Blows reduce the cooldown of your super. So again, all these things, I know I'm very long-winded on this and I apologize. I just want everyone to understand, I am not impartial to Still Hunt. I think Still Hunt is an excellent weapon. It's designed, though, to face the Witness in Salvation's Edge, where you're scoped in from far away. There's no ads around you. You're on a different area than the rest of the map. It's great for that. It's also great for some strikes. Prison of Elders, I think, it's really great for. You can shoot the eyeball from across the battlefield. I think it's great for that too. And then since it's stationary, you can unload Apex into it and not have to worry about missing your shots. I just think because I don't like to be scoped in when I know that ads are going to be surrounding me, Microcosm is just better. And the DPS numbers back that up. Now, will either of those get nerfed by Bungie? Probably at some point. I mean, it's inevitable. It seems like Bungie nerfs everything that's fun. And right now, the two funnest things on there, Still Hunt and Microcosm, arguably Whisper because they just made it craftable last season. But again, with all the stuff going on at Bungie, who knows? They may not be as debuff heavy as they've been, the rest of the year with all the major changes that apparently are coming from being merging with Sony. So anyway, so that's the build. I'm going to cut this video and then I'm going to do some gameplay with both classes so that you guys can see it. And then I'm going to edit that in here after I get done talking, just so you can see. Again, I know it's long-winded. Please feel free to leave feedback. Let me know if this resonated with you. I can also, if you need me to show you like the damage numbers, I literally have the notebook paper next to me right now as I'm making this. All the numbers that I took down, all the adding that I did, and then what I did was I boiled it down to rounds per minute versus rounds in the magazine. I averaged it all out to figure out how many you're actually firing off in a specific amount of time to get the numbers that I got. And I know I'm not the only one that's done damage testing, but Microcosm is just easier to use. So if you haven't gotten Microcosm, it is 1000% worth it to grind out those the budding missions, and then get yourself a good group of friends, run those missions, get your Microcosm, and just have some fun with it before it inevitably gets nerfed like everything else. But as of right now, those are the two go-to. So either one of these will work. Your Midnight Coup, or if you want to run the sidearm, or the scout rifle, depending if you're running a master sector. So again, you're not running into these sectors. If you do have a setup like this, you're not running in just, running into the center of a group of 10 enemies. You're picking them off. So this is perfect to get your super up quick. This is also perfect to get your super up quick. And, if you've got some extra bullets laying around, this is also great. Now, I will say, if you do have this setup going, then I would highly recommend that you take off Solar Loader and you put on Kinetic Loader. I would also recommend, just honestly, it's not really necessary to have the Solar Siphon on just for your sniper and your rocket. I would just put your Kinetic Siphon on because you're going to be picking them off anyways. And then obviously your Scavenger, you're going to change that to a Solar Scavenger. So, but the reason I have this on is because I switch between the two so much. You're going to get that extra scorch on that hit. So yes, you are going to get some bonus damage. That 1.9 mil figure that I gave you that I did damage test out, it's probably going to be closer to 2 mil. But 25% more to get you to 2.4, 2.5 mil, I think is worth it. It's the 500,000 DPS is nothing to sneeze at as far as differences. It's going to be the difference between one phasing and two phasing. With this setup that I have right here, and I know that I might catch some flack for the boss that I'm going to describe, but I rolled into Grasp of Avarice kind of last minute with my clan the other day, and with this setup right here, I didn't even need to touch the Supremacy the whole encounter because all we needed was one damage phase, and this thing absolutely took it out. One damage phase, zero problems. So it is 100% worth it. Again, I know it's not the heaviest health bar enemy, that ogre, but it just goes to show most people take 2 damage phases to get through that. Some of the better groups do take 1. I'm not going to sit here and say that my group was great because, obviously, that was surprising for me. I knew it was powerful, but I hadn't actually tested it on something that I could hit the crit spot as often since Oryx, one of my previous shorts. And I was pleasantly surprised that I was able to use this weapon. I used 2 full magazines and about 50 rounds in a third magazine. So, I mean, as far as maximizing the damage with it, this thing, I mean, again, 19 seconds of buff, I was able to get over 240 rounds fired into the ogre on Grasp. And it did just as well against the final boss as well in Grasp. So 100% recommend it. Like I said, let me know in the comments what you guys think. I know it's a little bit long-winded. I've said that 3 or 4 times, but let me know how this class works for you. Let me know, if you can tweak it to fit your play style better. And obviously, I appreciate all feedback that you guys give. I apologize for being so long getting this video out. I know some of you guys have been asking me for weeks now to get this video out, but this works very well for me. I think it can work very well for you. And if you are doing nothing but endgame, legend sectors, everything else, the other setup that I had was Still Hunt and Midnight Coup and switching your artifact perks around absolutely can work. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you for sticking this out through my long-windedness. Like I said, leave some feedback. Share this with someone who needs help building a good hunter because, I didn't know how to build for a long time when I was playing Destiny. But anyways, I'll stop yammering. Thanks for checking me out, and I'll see you guys next time.
An old friend is here. Judgment at hand. Is here. Judgment at hand. Strategist.
What's your scale?